Do we have all of our conveners? Do we have most of our conveners? All right. Wild ideas. All right, this is wild idea time, and it's up to you conveners to figure out which of the ideas that were discussed around your tables was the wildest, or at least fun, or at least good, or at least, anyway, I'm going to go around the room quickly. I'm going to go alphabetically by group, so Siobhan, get ready. Siobhan, you are here, right? Is Siobhan here?
Yeah.
All right, you ready? You got your wild idea ready?
I gave up my wild ideas to Savette.
No, you got to give it yourself.
All right. Are we done?
Yep. Come up. Actually, just take one of these. By pushing the button, you can make it active. Conveners, get ready.
All right, so there were many great ideas that came across the arts and culture, but not the least of which was to create a mobile campaign where we have a mobile unit drive around the city to get the big ideas. The second was about convening a simulcast, almost with the idea of great ideas around the world about what makes Philadelphia great. And so I think those are probably the two that came out, but there's many. There were many that came out.
That's great. Thank you. Helen Cunningham. Okay. Helen, wild idea.
All right, I'm speaking. I'm not Helen, I'm Sylvie, but so two wild ideas. So first of all, geography is not really mandated to be taught in schools and often not taught in schools at all. So making sure that geography is taught and that World Heritage is taught through geography in the schools is one. And the other is making sure that no one is really left out in this. So having discounted public transportation for trips to heritage destinations.
All right, cool. Caroline Boyce, history and preservation.
So we thought all of our ideas were great and wild. So we took a little more serious tack because we think that it's critically important that everybody understand that history and heritage is a strong, if not the underlying component of all of this, and that history and heritage must be on the same page, the same team as arts and culture. Two things we wanted to put forward. One, we must figure out how to harvest the income from this initiative to preserve and sustain the resources that are at the heart of it. Funding for the Historical Commission, funding for historic sites, and for property owners around the city. Secondly, that it's important that a citywide survey of historic resources be conducted, and that a strategic plan for the city's historic resources be developed. Many other cities have such a plan. Philadelphia needs that too. That can become then a basis for education, engaging communities and neighborhoods all around the city in this.
Not wild, but great.
Not wild, but critically important.
David Boardman, communications.
First, I wanted to express, my group wanted me to express our concern, and it really, I think, reflects one of the challenges of this about the whiteness of the room today, and it's something we really need to be sensitive to, not only from an optics standpoint, but from a participation standpoint. From a strategic standpoint, and this isn't one of our two ideas, but we really came to realize that any communication strategy actually needs to be at least two sub-strategies, one that's very much focused on international audiences, tourists and business, and then one that's very much focused internally and particularly around the idea of civic pride. We think that's a lot harder from a communication standpoint, but we think this whole endeavor offers a tremendous opportunity to make Philadelphians feel better about Philadelphia. So there are two wild ideas, one not so wild, one pretty wild. The first is we think the biggest communications opportunity is to connect Philadelphia's past with its future. And a potential tagline, we don't think it's finally there, but it's an idea we very much like, which is Philadelphia still inventing America. the idea of we did it and we're still doing it. And then the second idea was to lean on our good friends and great corporate citizens who happen to own a major cable network and movie and television producing operation to make sure that Philadelphia is in every television show and every movie that's produced by that company going forward.
Cherise Lilly was not here this morning, but she will hear about this.
Yeah, she is. Yeah, she's here.
Okay, what? Okay. All right, great. International relations, Krista Bard.
Well, this is really funny. Great minds think alike, or fools seldom differ. Take your pick. But literally, I think, Len, it was your statement that we came up with the same line. Still inventing and still innovating, connecting. Pardon me? Oh, it was Anne-Marie. Okay. But the group was very much on the same track. There were so many really good ideas, but they did, revolve around telling our story and getting other people to tell our story, testimonials. There's so many people, world leaders in every industry, every profession who have been trained here, and we need to gather those people and have them be, speaking out for us. There is also that we need to connect with other international organizations. There, even in terms of the ICOMOS, there's a international association for mayors. We need to have a seat at the table. We have a lot of good ideas in Philadelphia. We need to be sending people out with them using State Department funds that are already available. The U.S. embassies are begging for innovators to come and talk about how the great things that are happening. And we already have people here who are traveling abroad and doing just that. So it's viable. And the global competition, that it's time that we should take the lead and create a global competition on what does American heritage mean to you, bring the honorees here. And we could also be creating an idea bank for our leaders of best practices from around the world. So it's both an export of our best talent, but also an import of best practices from abroad as well.
Oh, that's terrific.
Okay, we have a request for one more wild idea, and that is to create a Center for the Future of Democracies. While there are many organizations like the Parliament of Democracies that are already working on that, there is a real opportunity for us to take the place and create an umbrella for all those organizations and keep being a thought leader.
Thank you very much. Eric Ebgen, how about hospitality and promotion?
Sure. So we had a couple of ideas, and my job as a research director at the Philadelphia Convention Visitors Bureau, unfortunately, I've seen brand studies and perception studies of Philadelphia. We're not very well recognized internationally or even domestically. So our group says, to heck with it. We don't believe in research, apparently. We want to present ourselves as an international city with multilingual signage at the airport, 30th Street Station, and in the city. English, obviously, Spanish, and the way the Chinese market is moving, you may even want to include Mandarin. So that's one idea. Number two, create an education kit used as a tool to teach about Philadelphia and why we are the U.S. first World Heritage City, and make the students our ambassadors.
All right, thank you very much. Okay, Rob and Steve, How's about business and commerce?
So thank you. I'm speaking on behalf of Rob McNeil, our co-convener, and Steve Ray. We had a great discussion on business and commerce. Some of it has been mentioned before, but I think the interesting challenge and opportunity is how does the term heritage call us forward? Because I think inherently the word heritage calls us backward in time. So we thought about thematically how we might do this, and since we're all amateur marketing folks, communications team, forgive us. Basically, the idea is this, is that we are a city still of big ideas. We're the city of living ideas. We're the great experiment, as was mentioned this morning, and that is how we call ourselves forward as an innovative city. So we'd like that thematically to be part of our approach to marketing and branding the city. And the second idea is to target something that's tangible. And I think on our radar screen is the 2026 celebration of our 250th anniversary. We believe we should make a strong play to have the World Heritage City convene their conference here in Philadelphia during that period of time. Maybe it's sometime between 2024 and 2026. And also leverage everything that goes on in the city yearly in terms of our celebration thematically of things like science or design, or the many, many companies that celebrate decade-old anniversaries that bring out their relics of their history to celebrate their past and transport that into the future. So all these things I think are happening on a year-to-year basis today, but I think as we all know, deadlines create discipline, and something targeting 2026 that may begin next year with a celebration of World Heritage and everything new about this designation, leading up to a convening and a distinguishing of our city, not only as a city that was founded on an idea here in the U.S., but also amongst our peers in the World Heritage City Group as well. So we really appreciate, I think, everything that's been said so far. I think it's all additive, and we're happy to contribute.
I detect something that will interest John Herman in all of that. Community development, Brian.
Our group took an interesting conversation. I don't think it was anything that any of us expected as we walked in. We spent much of our time talking about diversity and how Philadelphia was founded on the concept of ideas, and specifically the idea of equality. But unfortunately, we haven't always lived up to that ideal. And so the idea is more of an approach, which is how do we engage our communities where they live, in their neighborhoods, about their own individual and collective heritage, their own individual and collective culture, and how that fits into the larger heritage of the city, and making sure that all Philadelphians are captured into this great idea of a World Heritage City, and not just Center City and our major historic sites.
Thank you very much. Well, lots of fantastic stuff, obviously, and I hope that we will succeed in capturing as much of it as possible. And it's the job of the project team, together with the staff, to sort and come back to you and allow you as separate groups on your own schedule, but with a little discipline that we will try to infuse, to meet again, to take some of these ideas, put flesh on them, and come up, as I say, by the end of the spring with something that looks like a blueprint. Hopefully a very open-ended blueprint, but a blueprint nevertheless. So now, we have two things to ask you as you leave the door. One is to do just that, meet again, twice. And do more than that, bring somebody else. Bring a friend. Bring somebody who's an enemy. Bring somebody who knows about the topic. Bring somebody who can contribute. I think that's the goal we have for every one of you, and your conveners, together with the staff members assigned to them, will be in touch with you to make that happen. And lastly, I want you to be an ambassador. I mean, after all, everybody who's here, in one way or another, has relationships that are critical to the ultimate success of this project. So we want you to take away the black folder. It has a lot of useful information, which you probably haven't had a chance to look at yet. And it contains something very important, an invitation from the World Heritage City Executive Committee. We put Executive Committee in there to make it sound important. Inside this envelope are several items. One, another copy of the brochure that each of you has gotten. And because we're sneaky, we've slipped in there a solicitation to become a member of the Philadelphia World Heritage Society. That'll cost a little bit of money. But more importantly, I think, is the idea of getting somebody else interested, somebody else into the mix. If you will do that for us, we will share what we've said with you, with each of them, and try to funnel them toward whatever group makes sense, the groups that you've been talking about so far. Each of the invitations also has a return postcard, and we've put a 35-cent stamp on it to infuse a sense of guilt. If you don't use it, you're wasting good stamp money. So when you give this to someone, tell them that they owe it to us to respond, and they will be given the same choices that you were to signify what interest they have. Lastly, I resonated with several things that David Brownlee said. I'm sure you did too. One of the things he said was, early in our history, we somehow learned that we could change everything. And I hear in some of the ideas that you've come back with that same theme, still inventing, still creating, still. It's not just that we're a prisoner of our history, we are buoyed by our history to keep doing these wonderful new things. I would ask you, are we bold enough to keep that faith? I think we are. Thanks for being part of this. And thanks.